As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Have you guys ever heard of World Romance Scam Prevention Day?
Have you ever heard of World Rainbow Sprinkled Donut Day?
There's also World Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah, there are all kinds of days like that. But some of them are very serious, and World Romance Scam Prevention Day, this is a serious one.
I'll go with that.
As luck would have it, we're going to talk to the founder of that day today.
Welcome to What the Hack, a show about hackers, scammers, and the people they go after. I'm Adam Levin.
I'm Beau Friedlander.
And I'm Travis Taylor.
Kathy Waters, welcome to What the Hack. So you're the co-founder of Advocating Against Romance Scammers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Advocating Against Romance Scammers brings a lot of information, education to victims, and we have great resources for mental health, psychological, emotional, as well as identity theft services.
Okay, Kathy, so how did you get into this?
My mother's friend was talking to my mom about a new guy she had met online. He was a soldier in the Army, and he was deployed, and he was soon to retire. They started talking for a few months, planning their life together. He had a child. She was finally going to be a mom that she had always wanted to be. And they talked about buying a house and putting a down payment down. So he had asked for a few $1,000s for a down payment because he knew who the real estate agent was. And so she trusted him, sent him the money. And from then on, she continued to send money through gift cards, and come to find out it was all a scam. I had seen his picture on her profile, looked him up, saw on the uniform it said Denny on it. So I looked up Army Man Denny, and I found Brian Denny, who is now my co-founder in our nonprofit, and told me you can look up any name with Denny and you'll find his picture. And sure enough, I did. So I screenshot a lot of those accounts, sent them to her. And unfortunately, she still had a hard time with it, of believing the story. But for years now, she still thinks that he has something to do with it. She really believes that Brian is tied to them in some way.
Which brings up a point I think about when it comes to romance scams. Is it all made possible by how isolated people are?
I think a lot of it is. I think things are getting better now, as in with the loneliness. With COVID, when that hit, the numbers rose because everybody was home then. And so the internet was their socialization. But unfortunately, it does hit a lot of the lonely people. And it can even stem back to people who have had issues since they were young children. I mean, everybody's story is different. The scammer stories usually stay the same, just because they usually read on the scripts, but everybody's emotional and psychological history is different, and it can impact anybody.
What sort of increase did you see during the pandemic?
When I first started this about 7 years ago, we saw more 60s to 80s range, and it's been getting younger. 50s now more, 50s to 70s. During the COVID, though, it was hitting the about 30, 35-ish.
It sounds like in the beginning of romance scams growth online, it was hitting people who were not digital natives. Is that right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people then didn't realize how many crooks were out there online, and they still trusted a lot of people. I think that was a lot of it. And then with the younger group, you see that are getting scammed on here, they never think it's going to happen to them because they do know how to, maneuver around a social media site and know the red flags. And just because you know them doesn't mean that you're not going to be vulnerable in one part.
And is this mostly from what you're seeing, like app-based with dating apps or social media, or kind of what's the platform that they're dealing with?
All of them. Anything that has a chat.
So we're talking about some sort of real-time messaging feature which is integral to most platforms. And it's important to remember that while a scammer may approach a target on social media, they may move the conversation to another platform.
That's a classic move.
Are we talking about seniors using sort of dinosaur legacy programming that like where they're easy targets because they're like, "Hi, how you doing? I'm good. I'm Bob. I'm handsome."
No, not necessarily. Everybody of all ages are on the social media, and a lot of times it's to see family who live far away, and they get to see the pictures and stuff, and they belong to support groups. Some people have had losses, and so they belong to support groups that have to do with being a widow or widower, and that is where a lot of these scammers will hang out and try and find their next client. But it's through their messaging system mostly.
Wait a second now, Kathy. You said client. Is it not victim?
Well, they are absolutely victims in my eyes, but the scammers refer them as their clients.
Wow.
So, Kathy, it starts with someone that may be lonely, correct?
Yes, usually that's the persona of the person who's going to be scammed. The scammers will send out hundreds of emails to different potential victims, and only a few of those will latch on to those because those are the ones usually who maybe are in a more vulnerable state. I think a lot of times they're lonely, or maybe they don't think they're lonely, but they are a little bit more than what they thought. And so they do get trapped in these words. The attention is always something that a lot of these people hang on to, and it's almost like an addicting factor. They will also do their own research too on somebody's profile. Once they start, talking with them, getting some communication going, they'll notice some of their hobbies that they do. They'll look in their pictures, see that they have grandchildren. I mean, they try and find any kind of links that they can to bring in that more emotional connection.
As a person with a very deep voice, I'm hired all the time for advertising campaigns. But a deep voice doesn't sell B2B, and advertising on the wrong platform doesn't sell B2B either. That's why if you're a B2B marketer, you should use LinkedIn ads. LinkedIn has the targeting capabilities to help you reach the world's largest professional audience. That's right, over 70 million decision makers all in one place. All the big wigs, then medium wigs, also small wigs who are on the path to becoming big wigs. Okay, that's enough about wigs. LinkedIn ads allows you to focus on getting your B2B message to the right people. So, does that mean you should use ads on LinkedIn instead of hiring me, the man with the deepest voice in the world? Yes. Yes, it does. Get started today and see why LinkedIn is the place to be to be. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Travis, we've talked about HelloFresh in the past, right?
We have indeed.
But now that fall's here, I love fall. HelloFresh has a new lineup of meals to choose from.
It looks like they have a lot of options. More than 40 recipes available per week. Is that right?
Yeah, there's over 40 recipes available per week, and they also have add-ons, so you can just modify each meal accordingly. There's a lot of different variations. The nice thing, too, is that the meals are also broken down by categories. So there's like veggie, there's fit and wholesome, or my favorite, which is the family-friendly. I've got 2 kids in school, and since my wife and I are working, it's great to not have to figure out what we're making for dinner each night.
Especially since they have a selection of quick and easy recipes and 15-minute meals.
Yeah, since we've gotten HelloFresh, we've had a lot more time to spend with one another rather than spending time in the kitchen and doing dishes.
We actually have a special offer for What the Hack listeners. Go to HelloFresh.com/50hack and use the code 50hack for 50% off plus 15% off for the next 2 months.
And that's HelloFresh.com/50hack and use code 50hack for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months.
Get HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
So the question I have here is that there are literally billions of people online, especially on social media. So in terms of this process, how are these scammers picking their victims or clients, as you put it?
Some will try and find them in groups where people are more vulnerable. They will also go onto somebody they've been speaking with, going onto their friends list, asking all of their friends online if they would like to be friends or try and connect, send them a message. They will send out messages by the hundreds just to try and get one or two to connect with them.
Okay, wait, Adam, you look marvelous.
Why, I never thought you'd... It must be my just turned 74 glow.
No, it's that shirt. That shirt makes your deltoids look positively gigantic, like stringy, muscly Fabio. Like, I think I'm in love with you.
I am uncomfortable.
Because it is my Psycho Bunny shirt.
Psycho Bunny. I love Psycho Bunny.
Bunny.
Do you know what?
What?
I actually had a dream that I was going to marry a 70-year-old man who wore Psycho Bunny shirts. This is
I'm
weird.
too old for you because I'm not 70 anymore.
No, but dreams are never exact. But I think you might be my dream come true. Anyway, so
I have been thinking about a neurotic bearded person as someone that I can get together with. So
that is, I mean, is it that simple? It's just kind of like getting in there and being so, but not with a voice, right? They're usually not on the phone.
Right. And you know what I have learned over the years that I've been doing this, after doing different types of research with the different victims, that most of them, their love language is words of affirmation. And it just all makes sense.
When I think about it, though, there's a lot of different ways in which these scammers scam people, but not. At the end of the day, what makes romance scams so easy to fall for?
I think it's a little bit of a combination of the words, and I think it's a combination of where a person is in their life emotionally. It's pretty fascinating when you think about it, and especially how manipulating they are to the victim, to where the victim doesn't even trust their own family anymore. It's the brainwashing in this scam is absolutely extraordinary.
Okay, so talk about that. It sounds like you're saying the scammers isolate their clients or victims, and in such a way that they take over their psyches.
Absolutely. Yes. They definitely try and isolate them. They will tell them, don't tell anybody about our relationship. And that's simply because people from the outside can absolutely tell what's going on, but we could see the scam, just like my mother's friend. And when she was telling us the story of this, we all knew it was too good to be true. But how do we prove this? And I was very fortunate to be able to find Brian. A lot of people can't find the right person or the real person. And when that happens, you can't get closure. You can't prove to the person that this is a fake person, your loved one. It's a fake person. And how do you move forward in trying to tell them that this is all fake when they've got the scammer on the other end being questioned by the victim and they have an answer for everything?
How do scammers get their clients to actually listen to them and not their family and friends? I guess it's an isolated person isolating an isolated person even more, and then putting them in a position where you can't prove a negative.
Yes, absolutely. It's very much like that. I used to compare it to like an addict, like a drug addict. But researchers have been doing this, and they're looking at it like a domestic violence abuse, the psychological, emotional abuse that goes along with those kind of relationships as well. They are tying that more into it than a drug addiction.
How does that work?
Well, it affects your brain. It's we like to hear those words. It's like at the beginning of a real relationship in person. You get to go out with the person, you have a good time, they make you feel good. It's very similar like that. And you want to call that person, you want to see them again all the time. But this is just all done online. And you start to trust that person, their word, and it just all kind of falls in place for them. They will give them, like I said, the promises. They will start bringing in other people, such as like their child. The scammer will bring in their child and to talk with the client to try and manipulate them even more. The person that they use, their partner in the scam, will call this person mom or dad in any way to get into their mind just a little bit.
So, I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience, but let's just say, I'm in a long-term relationship, Kathy, and every once in a while, the person I live with gets annoyed by me. And sometimes it happens when she's on a work trip.
She's not alone.
So there's a certain dopamine hit you get when you're waiting for that text and it arrives and you think, oh, all is well in the world. Okay. And I think that part of this process involves that dopamine hit, because I remember in the last breakup that I had, there were cell phones and there was texting, and we went from texting each other stupid things all day long to nothing. And the silence was really difficult. It was so hard to handle. That is the basic psychological situation that family and friends are up against, no?
These victims depend on those texts coming in, and each text makes them feel good. One of these tactics that the scammers do when they're starting to be questioned a lot by the victim is completely disconnect from them. They will block the victim from everything and will stay away for a few days. And in those few days, that victim feels like their world is falling apart. And when the scammer comes back and will apologize, the victim feels better. Then they feel like, I'm never going to ask another question again because I don't want that disconnection anymore.
One thing I'm wondering about here is whether or not the scammer is just flattering their clients.
But it also sounds like they're being psychologically way more nuanced in understanding that if they withhold attention, the connection will become stronger and the need for that phone lighting up with another message. So Kathy, how does that play out? So once we're there, what's the next beat in a romance scam?
It just continues on. It's story after story. And these stories are outlandish. And you wonder how so many victims can be like attracted to that. It's, if it's not they're in the hospital because they were shot, they're in jail, or they won an award and this award is money or gold and they're going to send a package and then the package gets lost, or the package is stuck in customs and they have to pay thousands of dollars to get this package out. And then once you pay, it gets stuck again, or it wasn't enough. I mean, it's just on and on. And if they get questioned, then the scammers pull back again. So it's a vicious cycle that just keeps messing with these victims' brains.
Aren't they part of like a consortium of scammers?
Yeah, and you may be the victim may believe they're having a conversation with one person, but they're being tag teamed by many people who all know the script.
They They work in groups. They work with their stories together. They will be each other's family members, a part of the story. Anything to get the victims to believe what they have to say. And that's one of the things when I talk to victims, like, but I talked to their son and or I talked to their mother on the phone. It's like, no, you didn't. It just makes the story more real.
How long is the lifespan of the average romance scam? Is that like days or months, weeks, years?
Yeah, it can definitely go years. I talked to one lady that it was 7 years long.
Oh, wow.
And days too. I mean, sometimes people really do recognize it right away. Those are usually the ones where the manipulation isn't so heavy, but you get into the ones that are, just a few months. My mother's friend was in it for 4 months, I think it was a total.
Mm-hmm.
And she had sent about $35,000 to him in the matter of that 4 months of somebody she never even met in person.
What is the largest amount of money, based on your experience, that you've seen someone lose to a romance scammer?
For somebody that came up to me as a victim, about $500,000.
I think of the emotional response that these scammers are able to get out of their victims, and it reminds me of, a sort of casino vibe where you sit in front of the slot machine or you play roulette or whatever, and you're just like, maybe this time it's going to hit, and you're okay with losing $1,000 on Monday because you're going to be at the casino till Thursday, and you never know if you're going to hit. And these scammers understand, like, they have the example out there, right, of casinos. Like, people give all their money to casinos all the time. It's perfectly legal. So what are they after? They're after that dopamine hit. How about we do the same thing here? It sounds to me, that's how I can explain that a person over the course of 7 years would hand over $100,000, because they're not doing it all at once. They're doing it in drips and drabs. And by the time they, realize what's happened, they have been completely bankrupted.
Bo, we are a shame-free zone.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Anybody, and I mean anybody, can be a victim.
Not me.
You.
Yes, I would agree with that. I agree with that.
We know that a lot of people just are embarrassed by this. They don't want to talk about this. They don't report this. But based on those who do report, is there any idea as to how many people become victims of romance scams every year?
I spoke with the ex-head of the IC3, which is the Internet Crimes Complaint Center. They are the center where you will report for the FBI for the cyber crimes. And she said that they felt probably less than 3% actually report the scams. And with $3 billion going out of the United States between romance scams and the pig butchering scams, that's astronomical. And to think that people don't feel safe enough to come forward to report is mind-boggling. I feel awful that these victims are going through this alone, and they are not alone. So that's a huge part of this day too, is for people to be aware that you are not alone and that there is absolutely support, not only here in the United States, but all over the world.
How do we make people feel safe about coming forward about their experiences with these scams?
It's important for victims to know that their identity is safe with organizations that are out there. And I mean, you definitely have to be careful. There are other groups out there that probably aren't so safe with your identity. But if you do your own research and you look into the groups that are out there, there's several great Facebook groups. You're more than welcome to come to our site. We can give you some names of the people that we work with. But I know a lot of people are afraid to report to law enforcement because it could get back to their family. They could be dragged to court and they don't want to give, their information. And those are solid concerns. But your justice is worth far more. And I'm not saying that your marriage, because some married people do get involved in the scams, isn't important, but I am saying that you definitely deserve to maybe see this scammer be put in jail. Unfortunately, you don't get your money back, or it's very, very rare that you'll get your money back.
So do these happen more on dating apps, social media? Are there other ways that scammers prey on people that we're not aware of?
Scams are all over, really. I mean, the majority of the romance scams right now are happening within the social media, any chat sites. But you can find scams anywhere, your phone, your emails, but romance scams particularly in the messaging and social media sites.
What, if anything, should these messaging sites be doing differently?
I absolutely think that they need to be stricter with safer sites. Match Group has been a supporter of this World Romance Scam Prevention Day since the beginning, and we would love for every social media company to follow suit. There's no reason why there should be so many scams online. I believe that they also need human eyes on these reports that people are reporting these fake accounts. We're getting, the same automated information and responses back that it's not within their community standards. And as a huge example, I turn in Brian's accounts very often, the fake accounts, and I turn them in as a friend of his. And so Brian will get the information that somebody reported an account. And once he gets that information, they'll come back and say it's within community standard. How can they respond to somebody, the actual person, and say that the fake account is real? It's mind-boggling. There a lot more needs to be done in that realm of safety on the platforms. And unfortunately, a lot of the platforms aren't on board.
If you could wave a magic wand and things would immediately change, what would you have them change? What policies can you make them do that will be far more inhospitable to people who are masquerading as people like Brian, for instance?
Every website out there, every social media website out there have great community standards. They just don't follow them. So unfortunately, I mean, we're not ones that want to regulate everything, but social media needs to be regulated. They have been self-policing themselves for decades now, and it has gotten us nowhere. It's gotten us worse, actually, in worse spots. And to where, it's not just the money, it's the lives that are being lost, and they're not held responsible for it. And unfortunately, I mean, I would think that waving that magic wand, I would make them responsible for any crimes that they're allowing online.
And you mean legally in a court of law, responsible?
Yes.
Answerable
Right.
to the law.
Hey, Travis, you keep talking about Backblaze. What is it?
It's a backup service, but it's an industry leader in it. It's cheap. It's only $7 a month, and it gives you unlimited computer backup for anything involving Macs, PCs, your business. It does it all.
Wait, Backblaze?
Backblaze.
What would I use it for?
It can really easily protect your business data as well as your personal files, and it does it through this centrally managed administrative interface.
Does that mean you can access it anywhere in the world?
Anywhere using their web app, and you can also access your backed up files through iOS and Android, so it's a very complete service.
What happens if your internet connection is too slow for a web download?
You can have a hard drive sent to you, and if you return it within 30 days, you can get a full refund.
Adam, you are super worried about accidentally deleting files, and for $2 a month, is that right? That doesn't seem like it's right. You can increase your retention history to 1 year. That's bonkers.
Right. They've restored over 55 billion with a B files for customers.
Yeah, what is this free, fully featured, no credit card required trial? Travis, what is the website?
It's backblaze.com/hack. And that's for us at What the Heck.
If you own a business, click on Business Backup in the navigation and start backing up your business data.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one who's a total fanboy for this. The New York Times recommended it, Inc., Macworld, PC World, LifeWire, Wired, really all the major technology review websites and publications out there are all pretty much in agreement that it is a really solid service at a great price point.
Receive a fully featured 15-day, no credit card required free trial.
Visit backblaze.com/hack, and they'll know you came from What the Heck, I'm guessing, and that will help you continue to support this show, which we know you love.
Start protecting yourself from potential bad times. Start today.
$7 a month. No gimmicks, no add-ons or gotchas. That's pretty cool.
For a 15-day, no credit card required free trial, sign up at backblaze.com/hack. That's backblaze.com/HACK.
Tell us a little bit about World Romance Prevention Day. Is that like National Daughter Day or Scratch Your Dog Behind the Ear Day? Is it a real day, or is it a marketing thing? What is it?
Oh, it's absolutely a real day. So we were able to get it registered.
Oh, right. I made it sound like you were involved in romance prevention. My bad.
Right. And so it's World Romance Scam Prevention Day. And we were thinking about it at the beginning of the year. Maybe we should look into this. How does everything else have a day, but something this important, and the money loss and the losses of lives because of this, it needs a day of recognition. It needs a day for all of us to come together and put out as much education and awareness as possible. So we went ahead with it, and people are really supportive of the day. And I'm not just talking within the United States. This is something that's going on all over the world.
So what happens on this day of recognition?
So for us, we are doing a webinar. It's hosted by InfraGard, National Members Alliance. The London Police have 2 days worth of work that they're doing. They're getting their law enforcement together. They're having speakers come out. I mean, so many countries are getting together and actually recognizing this day. And it's really just to promote the education that people are not aware of. And I really think that the stigmas that are out there is because people haven't educated themselves in this scam, and they're very quick to point the finger of how people just send money to strangers, which is absolutely not the case. Obviously, it has a lot to do with the manipulation.
It has been so great to talk to you. We really thank you so much, especially, and we know how busy you are trying to get the word out about these romance scams.
So what's your website?
It's advocatingforyou.com, and it's the letter U, not YOU. And then we also have one for the World Romance Scam Prevention Day, and that's protectingheartsday.com.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you, and keep up the good work, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys making the time for me and this day.
So one thing that I wanted to get into more, but we didn't manage it, is the way scammers work with gamers and how that might involve human trafficking. Adam, as you know, I'm not a gamer, but I know that you and your son do play some games. Do those games allow other people to, that you don't know, interact with you? Can you play with somebody who's in Ohio when you're in California or whatever?
I have not, but I know that he does.
And when that's happening, that person, remember, I spend the majority of my time outside splitting wood and talking to groundhogs. When you're on those games, they can talk to you. Is that right? How on earth does it work?
Well, it's a pretty standard feature of just about any gaming platform right now, where you're able to communicate with other people that you're playing with or against.
Right, but if you're playing, like, I'm shooting people, I'm like, yay, haha, you just exploded. Like, I find you so attractive. It seems dissonant to me. Like, I'm not going to.
What you can do is, I don't think they come on that strong initially, but what you can do is just add someone as a friend if you've been playing with them for a bit. And then when you add them to as a contact, that means that they can communicate with you sometimes even outside of the game and just on the platform. And then you can kind of build a friendship there.
Travis, where does the human trafficking part come in?
Unfortunately, the way that this has been working of late, especially in countries like Cambodia, is people will get drawn in with the opportunity to make a lot of money working in an office if they can speak English. And then it ends up being that they are technically enslaved.
What?
Yeah.
And what are they enslaved to do?
To reach out to other people online. So every time you have someone saying like, hey, I like the way you just performed that headshot or whatever in a video game,
yeah,
that is very often going to be someone who is indentured at a minimum.
Wow.
Bo, this is one of the things that's just so mind-boggling about all this, is how complex it is, how many people are involved, all the different roles they play.
Yeah, I mean, but it is that sort of like pull a thread or go down a rabbit hole and, you're lost. It's exactly as you say. It's kind of it's mind blowing. But so I learned a lot today. How about you guys?
Definitely. I mean, we've certainly had some people who've been victims of romance scams online, but no one that's been, I think, quite as high up in terms of dealing with that. I think her insight has been invaluable.
It's a terrific organization. And one of the big things that it deals with is this is really an addiction.
Wow, yeah. I mean, and I can say I know a bit about that, as you know, and it hits the same buttons. I think it does. And that's the hardest part, because when you have a family member who's like giving money away to a stranger, and you say, well, the stranger is actually refers to as a client, and they're based in Indonesia or Nigeria or wherever, or Turkey or Poland or Russia, they're not going to believe you, because they're like, yeah, but don't you dare take away my drug. All right, guys, what is this week's tinfoil swan?
Do you mean our paranoid takeaway to help keep you safe on and offline?
Yeah, I do. So this week it is how to scam-proof an online romance.
Well, as you both know, I'm a very romantic soul, so...
Very. Oh,
yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
I'm enthralled.
Yeah.
Are you, though?
Yes,
Travis?
Totally. That voice gets to me all the time.
Well, maybe you are, but I don't read him as romantic. Or Travis is a romantic.
I have a voice like Barry White. It kind of comes with the territory.
No, and his wife loves him a lot. So, okay, we know you're romantic. What do you got?
She does, but I love your hair too, bro.
No. It's get you nowhere. Flattery will get you nowhere.
Well, one of the main things that we've gotten into is that with a lot of the folks who are online looking for love or companionship even, that makes them into an easier target. But one of the great things about the internet is that it actually helps facilitate finding true and legitimate relationships.
What do you like about my hair, Travis?
It's long, it's luxuriant,
and
it's
there's
flowing.
A very luxurious man bun at the end.
I agree, but I have to say again that I get that people go online to find love. Guinevere and I met at the dog park, and as much as she thought I was a stalker in the beginning, it was a person-to-person meeting, and it was doing something that we both like. It's the way to meet somebody, doing something you both like. Adam, you met your wife through a mutual friend. Travis, you met your wife in college.
Yeah.
None of us.
But I have a lot of friends who met their wives online and are very happy. If you're going to use the internet for love, the bottom line on all this is use it in all its glory, because it can also show the lie too. But you've got to do research. You got to put some work into it.
Yeah, and also be open to the possibility that the person you're in love with isn't a person at all.
But what are the red flags here?
The red flags are often you can't see them, you can't hear them, you get wild stories, and all roads seem to lead to the same place, which is money. They want your money, or they want a compromising picture that will then lead them to a lot of money.
Yeah, and even more dire consequences, as we learned in a recent episode with John DeMay. So listen, if you are the victim of a romance scam, remember, this is serious stuff, and it can lead to really serious outcomes. Don't keep it to yourself. You can talk to the police. You should for sure talk to family. If it's something that's embarrassing or may damage a relationship, there's always going to be someone that you can talk to, and you need to do that.
100%. Yep.
Well said. And that's our tinfoil swan.
What the Hack with Adam Levin is a production of Loud Tree Media. You can find us online at adamlevin.com and on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Adam K. Levin.